Thank you. Since I am vertically challenged, I think I'm going to stand. Now I'm a big guy, man. I would like for everybody here to just take a quick moment and look around this room. It's a good-looking room. We have people all walks of life.
Yes, sir.
But look at how many of you are here. Give yourselves a round of applause. In fact, how many of you have seen the first movie, Jaws? Raise your hand. Remember that? And the one guy kept saying, gotta get a bigger boat. Gotta get a bigger boat. Mr. Mayor, we gotta get a bigger venue. But I just wanted to come by to again show my support for my good friend Eric and see a lot of the friends that are in the district that I represent. And I want you to know that this is just blowing my mind and I'm proud. But the one thing that is clear from each and every table, it's jobs, it's economic development, it's transportation. So I think we've received your message loud and clear, and we'll do the very best that we can to address your concerns. It is now my pleasure to introduce a man that I call my friend. When we are not in crowds like this, I call him Eric. We work unbelievably well together. Our staffs work well together, and our priority is to deliver the services that you want, you need, and you expect. We kind of lucked up. We have a renaissance man here who can do many things. I'm going to ask you, though, not to sing. If there is a piano, we will allow him to play the piano. But this was a man that a lot of people didn't believe had a chance. This was a man that was the underdog. And I think sends an example to each and every one of you that anything is possible if you believe it and you work hard enough. This is a man that I believe will lead this city for the next 8 years. And I'm going to be by his side every step of the way. So ladies and gentlemen, our friend, our mayor, Eric Garcetti. Thank you. Thank you. I just told our great council president, I love looking up to him. So I feel so blessed to serve with somebody that even if we weren't serving together, we would be friends, we would be brothers. I know the measure of the man, I know his family, I know the people around him, and government doesn't work when it fights. A lot of people in politics today in America want to see fights. When you turn on the TV, you think that's all Americans do. But I think people actually want the business taken care of. And this man is doing the legislative branch. He gives you all these tickets to go, these free tickets to go out of town because under the charter he's the acting mayor of the state. So I don't know what about, but we do it on the executive branch. He does it on the legislative branch. Give it up for Herb West and doing that. I too am blown away by tonight. Many of us were here together after I was elected, before I was sworn in. Because after I had the privilege of winning that election, I said, I don't want to go off to City Hall and go behind closed doors. I want to start listening. And before I even become your mayor, before I raise my hand to be sworn in, I want to hear what people are talking about. We came to this room. How many folks were at those sessions before? Thank you for the 2 times that were here, or that are here. And what I heard around the city, as much as people think that we're a city that's divided, that, the Valley cares about different things in South LA, and the Harbor area from East LA, and the West Side from Central LA, it was pretty universal. People said, make City Hall work and get this city back to work. And those twin pillars have been what's guided me to try to get this economy jump-started again for the jobs that I heard every single table talk about. Not just any jobs, but good jobs that pay a living wage with benefits.
but also make City Hall work, make it relevant. Yes, of course, we have to do our part. Government can't do it all. We don't come to sessions here to say City Hall fixed it. We are the government together. In a democracy, we are the people. But you deserve the piece that we do from City Hall to take care of your taxpayer money, to be friendly, to answer your questions, and to do what you want. It was Joel Wax, who I served with for like 3 months, who once said, you know, my philosophy is simple. People deserve what they want, or a good explanation as to why not. And that's the only two options we have. That's why we set up a mayor's help desk at City Hall where there hadn't been one. That's why we set up tables on the street to listen to folks in office hours. That's why I don't just come out for a press conference or a community meeting, but for instance yesterday we're at my office in South LA, which we set up, and I said, not just me, the entire senior staff comes and we work the entire day there, not with fanfare, not for the press, not for the community, but do that in the valley, do that in the harbor, do that throughout the city, because we can't be stuck at City Hall, the answers are out here. And what I heard tonight are those answers. You know, we were at the King Day Parade on Monday. I was very honored to be the Grand Marshal, and I chose to go with me 2 teachers who teach computer science at, yes, Dorsey and Crenshaw High Schools. And they brought with them their students. These are young people who are literally programming the future. They've learned computer science and computer programming. They created 34 apps, you know, smartphone apps last summer. And we're honored by President Obama. We helped send them there. President Obama thanked young people from South LA who maybe, when they graduate, starting the next Google or Facebook right here in South Los Angeles. That's right. And when we were going through the parade, it hit me that here we are. I always get asked the same question. I'm sure the council president does too. They put a microphone in our face during that parade. So what does this mean today and what's left unfinished? And of course we all know the answer. While many forms of overt discrimination are gone in this country because of the work of the Civil Rights Movement, the second piece of Dr. King's vision, which was economic opportunity, and zip code not be a determinant, we're still barely moving forward. And if you look at the statistics after this recession, we're worse off as a country and as a city than we were 5 years before. That the gap between rich and poor is the highest since 1917. By the way, 1917 is the first year they started tracking that statistic. So it's the worst it's ever been in the country. So we have 2 choices. We can either be powerless, we can turn on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever your preference, and watch people yell at each other. We can see Washington, D.C. where it's broken and people's whole game is to try to kill the other side instead of actually solve the people's problems. Or we can say here in a city that the solutions aren't going to come from 3,000 miles away, they're going to come from us. So what I've heard you ask me, and Herb Weston to do, and all of our staffs and those who serve as city employees. I want to thank our police officers that are here tonight. I want to thank our fire department, who's clearly, we have Chief Wayne here, who's our staff here, Bob, Jimmy, and appreciate him. I want to thank our fire department, because they're not here, otherwise we'd be in trouble from the fire marshal, I'm pretty sure. And those folks, many of whom South LA disproportionately has city employees. So many city employees live here and call South Los Angeles home for the work that they do as public servants. But what our work has to be, this is not something just to be shared between council members and the mayor, is these are our marching orders. And let me hear you, because I like to be an active listener, to try to give you back what I heard, and then give you a little preview of what we're doing. And then the last piece I'll end on the budget. So it's pretty clear that people want clean streets and safe streets in the communities they live in. And by the way, I know not everybody, we're here in South LA, and I should have started by thanking Holman United Methodist for having us here tonight. Pastor Tillman and the entire team. So just a quick show of hands. Who's here from the San Fernando Valley? Raise your hand. Who's here from the harbor area? Who's here from the east side? Who's here from the west side? And who's here from the central part of the city? And who's here from South LA? All right. So we have people literally from every single neighborhood who came here. And I appreciate especially those who took the trek away from your neighborhoods to come here. But South LA isn't different than any other part of Los Angeles in demanding those basic things from streets. So one of the first things that we announced, my first was called Executive Directive, was for the Great Streets Initiative, which will take some of our main streets and try to figure out how we can take that backbone, whether it be a Crenshaw or a Central or an Adams or a Wilshire or whatever street they are, and try to make sure that they can attract the investment and the jobs that we're talking about. I learned this as a council member when I took areas that were poor, overlooked. The crime statistics were off the charts, gunfire every weekend in my own neighborhood. And we took that main street and brought it back with local businesses, and guess what? Prosperity came with that. Government didn't bring those companies, they didn't hire those people, but they created the conditions. So clean streets, bringing graffiti down, making sure it's safe, continues. And while I want to praise the Los Angeles Police Department for the incredible work they do in the community, this was the safest year that we've had since 1949 for capital. We are the safest large city in America by crime. I also recognize through the eyes of young people that we still have to continue to bridge the gap that is felt sometimes between law enforcement and young people. What we can do to make sure that they feel like the A student who told me 3 times in the last year, I was just going to the market and I was searched. We have to figure out a way to continue to build that, because I know it's in the hearts of our police officers and the hearts of our young people to have that together. Second, jobs. So jobs are tough, right? Because government doesn't hire a lot of people directly. We certainly can't afford in the budget that we have to be hiring a lot of new people. But we can unleash creativity, not just in certain parts of the city, but everywhere. And so the work that we can do, because I know that for Herb Weston and for myself, that the moment we get more revenues, we don't have to talk about what we're going to cut. We can talk about what we're going to add back. So if we can bring, for instance, the cosmetics company CEO that I talked to, who used to work for another company, became his own entrepreneur, found a place on Adams, grew, so went down to Slauson, and then he found an industrial area there, hires just from the neighborhood, family after family, over 300 employees now, but he couldn't get high-speed internet access. So he was ordering DSL line after DSL line after DSL line in order to keep his now multi-million-dollar company there. And he said, I think I have to leave LA. We pick up the phone, talk to Time Warner, talk to AT&T. He's getting some high-speed access so that we can make sure that so we need you. Whether you're an entrepreneur with an idea, whether you work at a company that you've heard might be leaving or wants to grow, we need to chase those leads because we can't always hear about those things. But it's not just top-down from the companies and entrepreneurs themselves. It also has to come bottom-up by creating pathways to the skills that make a young person or an unemployed person hireable. So I know that we are committed, and I chaired the committee that then Herb chaired on economic development, to having a summer this year that makes a difference, called the Summer of Learning, where we're going to be able to take young people and long-term unemployed and give them classes, digital badges that they can earn, that will give them certifications in things like computer programming, or resume building, or job readiness, to learn about high-tech manufacturing, so as manufacturing changes, somebody isn't left behind. Because you know what? I'll tell you one statistic that will probably surprise you. In Los Angeles, low-wage jobs are on decline, and high-wage jobs are going up. But poverty is greater now than it was 5 years ago. How do you put those two things together? What it means is that people who don't grow up and live in Los Angeles are probably the ones getting those jobs because we're not giving people the skills here to be hired in them. So combined with this summer of learning, we're also going to, because I heard, we made a pledge to hire 10,000 youth through a 10,000 youth jobs program this coming summer. So many of you own a business, know a business, we need business folks to help, and then we need you to get the word out to young people, because 10,000 was the number of kids we turned away last summer from communities like this who came to the city program and said, I wanted to work, but we only had about $1,500 to give them. This will be immense work. It will be $20 million I have to raise. It will mean a lot of things with the city council together, but I know we can do it because if we invest in young people, we will see a future in which they are providing for themselves in the city. Two last things. I also heard some pretty common things about homelessness in the city, and we have to figure out a way to end chronic homelessness and provide more affordable housing. Right now, we don't have enough housing in Los Angeles, which is why rents are going up and going up and going up. And making sure that we do that recognizing, as somebody said, the landlords will provide that and help them incentivize making sure it stays affordable, as well as building the housing that can take veterans off the street and others will be critical. We also are looking at a reentry office to take folks who are coming out of the criminal justice system and make sure they don't reoffend, and in fact, they can get trained and get jobs. We talked about the high level of incarceration. It makes financial sense, not just ethical sense, to make sure that we do that. For the first time, we hope by this summer to have an Office of Reentry established for the city of Los Angeles. And then lastly, I think in the broad sense of health, whether it's walkable and bikeable communities, whether it's as good food here as any place else, whether it's a chance to grow food, I'll end with this story. After the parade on Monday, I went with Daphne Bradford, one of the two teachers, down to Crenshaw High School, where day of service, they went to the old garden that Crenshaw High School had fallen in complete disrepair. And we had residents from throughout Los Angeles on a hot day who rolled up their sleeves and redid that garden. Made sure that the fruit trees were pruned for the first time, made sure that there were vegetables being put into the garden. To teach young people here that a healthy life doesn't start someplace off in the boonies in an agricultural rural area. It starts right here where we live. And making sure that that connects with transit so that people can have along the Crenshaw line the opportunities to get to and from work and to school in an affordable way and in a way that gets you where you need to go. And making sure that their health is tied into how we build this city out. We need more green space. I'm talking to Superintendent John Daisy to see if we can't get joint use agreements in all of our schools to make sure that they are open on the weekends and after school as parks and green spaces and community gardens. So we hear you. Tonight, all of this will be synthesized. Even if you only told us one thing, we have them all and we're taking the record of all of them. And from the different meetings that we're doing throughout the city, this will be the basis for the first time of our budget, which is where I wanted to end. The budget used to be, for those of you who are budget advocates, right? We've always had these things, but it's usually after we've drafted it. We say, just vote on 3 things, tell us what's the top priority. Thank you, we'll see you next year. I said we gotta start earlier and we gotta listen longer. And I didn't come to the beginning because I didn't want to disrupt things. I come at the end of this so I can just listen and hear and try to summarize this. But this conversation does not end tonight, and the budget is a moral document. At the end of the day, it reflects our values and who we are. We shouldn't start just with last year's programs and say we have to continue everything. Start from zero and build the city that you want. I know that Rick Cole, my deputy mayor, is overseeing a process to do that inside. And I know that Henry Casas and his team who helped put this all together are building that from the streets in. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Muchísimas gracias a todo el pueblo por su presencia esta noche. Es increíble ver sus ideas, su visión, su pasión. Your vision, your passion, your ideas will form the basis of what we'll put together. It won't be an easy year. I don't want to sell you a bill of goods. We lag a year from the economy in the city budget. But we're going to build a city that is great once again. Thank you so much.